I don't know about you, but I've reached the limit of how many modern games I can play that want to teach me what it's like to be a parent. It's almost as if the developers are trying to find the love their parents never thought they deserved through the games they're making. Clementine drove past that house at the beginning of the scene. Right before the scene changes, she drives past it a second time. What's this? Three-dimensional camera controls in a Telltale game? Where was this technology years ago? The trap rigged into the floor would make it impossible for the former occupants to get their own food out safely. Not to mention, the explosion would destroy all of their food in the event someone tried to steal it. If it's stolen or destroyed, your situation is the same: starving. To the bitter end, Telltale kept trying to put combat in their games even though their engine clearly wasn't built for it. Why even use the emergency handbrake when not parking on an incline? That gear shift was not in reverse. It was in second gear while reversing, then Clementine shifted to first. AJ was thrown from the car during the crash, something that is normally fatal, especially for children. If the plan was to restrain Clementine, you need to do a bit more than tape one of her hands to the bed. Makes it pretty easy to use the free hand to undo it. This is one of those bedroom doors that lock from the outside and can't be unlocked by the person inside the room. Never seen one in reality, but damn if they don't show up often in entertainment.
Sorry about locking the door and tying you to the bed and all. You were in pretty rough shape when we found you.
You should never trust a guy that looks like David from the Lost Boys.
He's been a little terror since he arrived.
Excuse me?
Let's just say he hasn't been happy without you around.
The simple answer to that problem would have been to let AJ stay with Clementine while she recovered instead of dragging him all over the school. These kids have adopted the Ewok strategy of fighting walkers, which seems like a whole lot of work hoisting rocks and logs into trees to kill a single walker when a melee weapon is just as effective. After 4 seasons, scenes where the characters battle walkers has become so boring that the only reason I pay attention to it is because of the looming threat of QuickTime events. I'm guessing they were going for a Goonies with Zombies vibe this season, because everyone dresses like the zombie apocalypse occurred in the 80s.
Those who do not learn from the past and all that.
Those who do not learn from the past make the same adventure games over and over and go out of business.
Where are AJ's parents?
In this world, the answer to that question is so obvious, why even ask it? Do you honestly expect a, "Oh, they're just on vacation, I'm watching him until they get back" response?
Out of the 4 of us, who do you think is gonna die first?
Joke's on the developer. The answer was their company.
Ever had to kill someone you loved? You wanted me to ask.
The kids came up with this card game to learn more about Clementine, and that was the one question they settled on asking beforehand. Out of everything they might want to know, that's what they were the most curious about.
But when the world went to shit, he bailed. All the other adults did.
Apparently they had poor understanding of the safety brick walls provide.
That's the train station. There was a whole stash of food under the floorboards.
The couple that lived in the train station didn't live that far from the school, and the kids have lived here since the pandemic started, yet they never ran into each other during that time. You are using the wrong size of rope for rabbit snares.
I think I can handle myself. I'm basically a ninja.
Me too.
AJ doesn't know what a fireman or police officer is, but somehow is aware of ninja.
I'll watch the door for walkers. Okay, AJ and I will sneak in, grab the food, and get out.
Violet stays here to watch the train station door for walkers, yet never sees Abel walk right past her and inside while Clem and AJ search for food.
You look a little young to be out on your own. You got a group?
A kid being here should be of no surprise to you. You and your friends are here to take the kids back with you after all. You're actually counting on them being here. Thanks for spoiling the fact that Abel doesn't die here with a "character will not forget this" text. This jar is labeled chickpeas but contains rice just like every other incorrectly labeled jar. Was it too hard to draw a different texture?
Where did you find all this?
The old train station. Clem knew where it was.
Train station, that's outside the safe zone.
That didn't stop Marlon and the others from going out there the other day when they saved Clem and AJ.
This locks from both sides.
Doesn't that mean the door can never be opened then? Why would the basement access door lock from the inside anyway? The other door to the basement is locked with a padlock. So how did Marlon and Brody plan to leave the basement once they were finished arguing? The other door in the dorms is locked from both sides. They don't hear Clem bashing this lock with a rock, but Clem can still hear their voices.
The man you met at the station, we got history.
Brody?
Marlon let him take the twins. Him and his people.
Abel is part of a group of raiders on a riverboat here to take the kids, so there was no reason for him to be scrounging around the school looking for food when they had plenty of that back on the boat.
She's gonna turn.
Would she though? Brody died due to brain damage, and brain damage is what stops walkers. So my joke earlier about these two locking themselves in the basement with no way out had weight, because Marlon closes the hatch to lock Clem in and she can't use the upstairs door to get out.
Hold!
You don't need it to hold. Just bash her head while she's pinned. Clementine kills walkers by the dozens at other times, but when there is only one, suddenly the threat becomes magnified.
What the hell is going on?
Look at her hands!
She's covered in Brody's blood!
This conflict could be easily solved by showing Brody's body in the basement that has signs of becoming a walker. Marlon dropped AJ's gun at his feet, and AJ was still standing with the group in front of Marlon. Yet AJ was able to walk up, take the pistol by Marlon's feet, walk behind him, and then put a bullet in his head without anyone noticing. Also, given that there is a clear exit wound in Marlon's head, that bullet should have also hit Clementine.
I'm going to help you atone.
Atone?
It means make up for what you did wrong.
It's easier than it sounds, AJ. Just one or two nice platitudes and they will forgive and forget even murder. What were the odds that both this game and Season 2 of Life is Strange would both focus on teaching a young kid through your actions?
AJ killed him like it was nothing. We all saw it, and no one stopped him.
Well, you could have. Unless AJ pulled one hell of a magic trick, one of you had to see him pick up the gun and take aim.
We took the vote. You have to leave.
Don't we get to vote? I vote that we stay.
That's not how it works.
Civics class must have been underfunded at the school.
Hand it over.
You're kicking them out and you just expect them to hand over their only gun?
Let's get going. The sun will set soon.
How do you know?
I don't know. I can just feel it.
Because the sky is orange. You've been on the road long enough to be able to spot that sign at least.
Hide!
This shotgun blast hits the tree on its right side, but when Clem takes cover, Abel is off to her far left, making that shot impossible without the buckshot somehow curving. Also, Abel is looking around like he can't find his target, but he just shot at Clem and would have seen her dive behind this tree. Yet he's looking in a completely different direction from where he shot.
I thought he died.
You can survive a bite if you cut it off fast enough.
Abel had nothing with him that would have let him quickly sever his own arm. Lily must practice off-screen stealth, since she was nowhere to be seen just a moment ago and AJ didn't see her come up behind Clem even though he was watching from cover. AJ's ability to take the shot has already disappeared now that the plot is finished with that narrative.
We're looking for a kid. Runs a community near here.
The game is insistent on not showing Lily's face until the right moment, even though the camera accidentally shows Lily's face here in the wide shot because they still do the slow reveal afterward.
I don't blame him. I was clearly a threat to the group after I killed that guy.
Doug.
Doug Savers unite. All three of us.
Lee should have left you behind too. Might have lived longer if he did. Your little boy there. You'll die protecting him.
Says the lady running her own The Walking Dead Outer Heaven. There is no explanation for why Lewis and Violet came back. They left Clem and AJ by the side of the road after expelling them from the school. Then they just show up to cause a distraction. There is no way buckshot fired from that distance would not have also hit Violet. AJ is shot from behind with buckshot, but the wound appears on his stomach. Abel only has one arm, yet he can repeatedly fire that sawed-off shotgun without reloading.
No.
Not signaling that you were only dressed as a walker while approaching someone who is good at killing them seems like a great way of getting yourself killed. Is that all it takes when you're surrounded by walkers? Toss a rock in the bushes? Too bad Clementine doesn't remember that for the final episode. That's the same knife Clem was using to stab walkers with a moment ago. I know that the rules about walker fluids is somewhat vague, but that's still gonna give you a nasty infection. Oh no, he's hot.
It was difficult to send the herd in to save you.
The herd you sent in almost killed Clem, since she had to run right through it before Lily and Abel were stopped by it. Also, that confrontation lasted only a few minutes. There is no way you saw it happening, rounded up a herd of walkers and sent them down the path in that amount of time.
Sleep.
Yes, try and sleep while the rain pours uncomfortably down on you.
Walker!
Again, James has to know that walking up to people with that mask on is going to provoke a reaction.
And then Louis got shot six inches over. We'd be digging another grave.
No, not really. It was buckshot he was hit by. It spreads out as it travels. AJ got a bigger blast of it at a closer range than you and came through pretty well.
Willie said someone was with you at the gates.
James. He saved me and AJ. Let us stay in his camp for the night.
But why did you bring him here? You led him right to us.
It was the other way around. James led Clementine back here. He already knew about the school and where it was.
With a little work, we could make this place really hard to attack.
I honestly think they would be better off hiding than fighting. Lily can only stick around for so long.
We've got good, strong walls. We need to make them hard to climb over, so the raiders have to come in through the gates.
We used to keep barbed wire in the greenhouse.
The game will send you after that barbed wire, but it will never be effective, since the militia just force their way through the front gate and never try to climb over the wall. This defense plan would have been better off, making it difficult to reach the school. Felling trees and digging pits in the road would keep the raiders from bringing any vehicles to take the kids away in.
Lily told me she was back, but I was like, no way. Violet wouldn't just go against what we all decided.
Telltale never had a big bag of tricks to begin with, but the character who turns asshole just add a foil into the scene is the one they whipped out whenever the plot reached the second act. Marlon wouldn't let the kids use the greenhouse greenhouse for growing food anymore after walkers got in, but there were only 3 inside of it, and the kids dealt with way more walkers than that earlier outside the school. A few boards leaning against the door would not have prevented Rosie from opening it.
Hey, we can use these.
For what?
We can make bombs out of these. I just need some propane and something to create a spark.
Creating a fertilizer bomb from store-bought fertilizer is harder to do than that due to the presence of other chemicals added to the mix, and propane is not used as a detonator in such a bomb. The door to the science lab is blocked by a shelf, presumably put there by the teacher trying to make sure no one would get inside and be killed by her once she turned. But you can't seal the entrance to the room you are walling yourself in. That requires someone on the outside to do it for you. Strange that the walker just on the other side of the door remained quiet despite all that noise you just made. They normally respond to that. The walker is tied to the wall too far a distance from the door to have grabbed Clem, so the game moved her closer during the camera cut to compensate. This is the effect of an overly long vegan diet. Clearly, Clementine is not looking into a STEM-filled career.
They all seem okay with letting you stay. For now, anyway.
They knew those guys would be coming before they took the vote to boot Clem and AJ out. Now they are fine with them staying after no change in that situation. This isn't how you do a time-lapse. From the comings and goings of Clementine, she visited AJ twice for the 2 weeks he was in bed. Nor did Clem sleep at all during that time, but she shows no sign of wariness. A random animal showing up has become so common in dream sequences that I'm pretty sure it would clue me into the fact that I'm dreaming and activate a lucid state. This dead horse can serve as a fine metaphor for Telltale's business strategy.
I want to stay up forever. I probably could. Like 18 days.
I bet that was what the Telltale manager said to the devs during development. 2 weeks of preparation, and it seems like most of the effort has gone towards banners and warning signs. These two are lucky that that test bomb failed to go off. They were only a few feet away from it.
It's not like I got all the time in the world to play scientist and figure this shit out. I'll figure it out. I just need more time.
You just said the opposite of what you just stated. Telltale, you didn't make action games. Trying to plug combat into an engine that can't handle it is just screaming desperation. The lack of action wasn't the reason people weren't buying your games.
Remind me to never piss you off while I'm standing at a moderate distance with a big red circle painted on my chest.
Lewis has clearly played through some Telltale games, because that is exactly how they handle action scenes.
I have an idea for duffel bags filled with bricks. We drop them on the raiders if they get to the admin building. Willie here wants to use a giant, idiotic swinging log to take out one raider at most.
Couldn't you have set up both traps during the 2 weeks you've been waiting for Lily to arrive?
An age without walkers. Like it used to be.
I've been saying that for years, yet the show keeps on going. Maybe Telltale was afraid of having a guy actively try to romance Clementine, but if you follow the Lewis relationship path, you have to throw yourself at the guy to get his attention. Indecisiveness, insecurity, and lack of confidence are the qualities ladies like to see in a man. He's a real winner.
Figured out what to call the song. Clementine.
I believe you're going to run up against some copyright issues. I can't think of any reason Lily needed 2 weeks to organize this small raid on a school full of kids. That's what happens when you turn into the asshole character for an episode in a Telltale game.
Kill who you have to. Take the rest.
Lily is here to capture the kids and turn them into soldiers for the Delta. Killing most of them seems counterproductive. The other kids were on Clementine's side of the fire, yet didn't follow her in the office and instead go back into the direction of the stairs where Abel was at. I'll just slowly pull the trigger any moment now, like I'm not waiting for someone to knock me away.
Talk to Abel. See if you can't find out where Lily took Vi, Omar, and Asim. I wanted to hurt him, to make him talk, but I just couldn't. Maybe you'll get more out of him than I did.
Yeah, just let your girlfriend and her 6-year-old adopted son dirty their hands by torturing a man for information because you were too much of a wuss. You can't tie a person's arms behind their back when said person only has one arm. What is his left arm even tied to back there?
You don't know what it's like out there. It's a bloodbath. One community against another. From Richmond to the coast. Back at the Delta, we're at war.
Because God forbid people put 2 and 2 together and realize that working together would increase their chances of survival instead of killing each other. That ruptured lung or whatever took a whole day to start acting up. Why burn those torches in the middle of the day though? The raiders should already be on their way back to the Delta by now with the 3 kids they grabbed. They're not planning to make another assault on the school until they get home. Yet they hang around the pier for the entire day.
After the attack, I wasn't sure. I heard they burned half your school down. Who survived?
Minerva was one of the 2 girls that used to live at the school with the rest of the kids before Marlon made a deal and gave them to Lily. Now that Minerva is a loyal soldier, you would think Lily would have brought her to the school to help grease the wheels with getting the other kids to go along with it.
Finish up and head back. I want to be in before dark.
Not giving away Clem and the others here is going to clash pretty hard with Minerva's actions later.
Our boat leaves for the Delta in 2 days. Then it'll be a couple of weeks before we can come back for the rest of you.
At what point do you cut your losses? You lost 2 people getting just 3 kids. And taking a boat up and down the river repeatedly has to expend serious fuel resources. And there's a potential you'll lose even more men while only getting enough kids to replace the casualties.
Clem, what's this?
It's called a salt lick. Go ahead, lick it if you want to.
Oh, gross.
Now that is a proper callback to the first season.
To see them as I do. As people.
As people?
Well, not people exactly. But... something in between. Part of us is still in there.
James is a naive boy. Even if there was some part of a person still inside a walker, so what? You are not bringing that person back. It's a walking corpse that will attack their own family members.
When they're alone, they're harmless. Innocent.
Yeah, walkers are harmless by themselves. It's the whole trying to eat everyone they see that's the problem. Congratulations, you proved that walkers will look and move toward any sound that they hear, something we already knew.
What are you thinking about right now?
You getting bit. Turning into a monster.
I'm thinking about heavy-handed foreshadowing of this all-too-obvious conclusion.
You shot that raider who grabbed me, but you saw them take Violet too. Which means you could have saved Violet and not me.
You could not have noticed Clementine making that decision due to you wrestling a woman with a gun as she made up her mind.
I never thought I'd get to go on a date, ever.
Really? Never? Have you met you? End of the world or not, someone would have at least tried to sweep you off your feet.
And that someone wasn't you. I had to do all the work and damn was it cringy.
Hey Clem, check it out. I found a bunch of books on ships.
All of the important information is in the middle of the book cliché. Also, that is clearly a student's composition notebook, not a historical book on ships. Surprise Dummies is probably the same banner Telltale used when laying off their workers.
You guys want to know why I got sent here?
Dude, no.
Chronic masturbation.
The walkers appeared over 8 years ago, and you look younger than Clementine, who was 8 back then. No way were you already into chronic masturbation. And in scene, for some reason. Not sure why AJ blew out the candle.
Why the train? You always pick the train.
It's called parallelism, Lee. The devs desperately want to create the same emotional response in the player that the first season attained, and that means playing the cheapest tricks they can pull off.
You know, I was making it all up as I went along, right?
I never noticed.
Obviously you did, because this Lee only exists in your head. Was the plan to rely on the raiders to shoot a walker near your hiding spot so you could recover it and smear yourself in guts so you could hide in the herd? Or was it just a lucky circumstance? Because otherwise, Clementine's group would not have had enough time to prepare since James' herd arrives right after this.
Clementine, could I speak to you alone?
I'm being written out of this plot at the end of the episode no matter what you choose, so I need to get my backstory out of the way.
My boyfriend, Charlie.
I knew he was too hot for a reason.
Okay, I'll try. What if I just get us caught too? All it would take is one little screw up, and I'd screw up all the time. All right, come on, Lewis. Get it together.
Is it too late to switch to Violet?
Walker blood is one of the hardest stains to get out.
Hardly. All of it washes off in the river. Rather than fighting off the walkers, why don't the raiders pull anchor and leave? They're not waiting around for something, so they have no reason to defend their ground. He doesn't notice this.
You got Tim caught up in this. Just tell me that he's safe.
Minerva is pretty worried about her brother Tin out on the beach, but then she tricks Clem and the others and locks them up, putting her brother in danger. If Violet hadn't been in the corner and stone silent, then Minerva's plan would have failed, and it isn't like they planned this out in case Clementine showed up.
I looked for you. When they grabbed me, I saw you let them take me.
No, you didn't. You were far too distracted to be looking around, just like Lewis was. It would not be difficult to escape these cells. Just take your shoelace, make a loop, and pull the bar up. Lily makes for one boring villain. It's not as if they have history just because they were both in season 1. You've gone to a lot of trouble to get these kids. Are you really going to cripple one of them right now just to prove some negligible point? Everything these kids did to defend themselves should be seen as a plus since that's what you want them for anyway.
Found this in the herd.
If you saw James in the herd, you would have just assumed he was a walker and shot him, not taken him prisoner. Maybe don't step out in front of the crazy lady to take the gun away from AJ while your back is unguarded. The bomb inside the boiler goes off and sends Clementine flying. But who is that in the background? That would be the girl James disarmed before he was killed. I guess the devs forgot about her character model still being in the scene.
We need to find a way down. This ship isn't gonna stay afloat much longer.
The ship is on the bank of a river. There isn't enough water beneath it to fully submerge it. AJ finds James' skin mask in the water even though the raiders removed it on the ship and didn't toss it. Also, even though they have the skin mask that lets someone walk through a herd, they will never use it while surrounded by walkers.
If I see you again, I'll kill you.
why even continue this lie of a character remembering something? Not only was this episode produced by a different studio after Telltale went under, this was subtitled The Final Season, so it wasn't going to continue anyway, so who cares if Lily will remember that? Violet was last seen watching over Minerva, who was unconscious on the riverboat, but Minerva is now on the shore fighting with walkers, so at some point Minerva woke up, went with Violet to the boiler room to stop the bomb, then were caught in the blast, but only Violet was blinded while Minerva somehow ended up on the shore fighting walkers, and then Violet made her way out of the destroyed ship and to shore while blind. That arrow right through the shoulder will not affect Minerva's ability to swing an axe or aim a gun at all. Clementine learned how easy it is to distract walkers from James. Just toss a rock, or use his mask.
Monsters, we need to move.
We'll have to squeeze through there.
We don't know where it goes.
Quickly, into this cave that may not have an exit, in which case we will be trapped and devoured. This is a way better plan than running along that clear path in front of us. Water that is spilling out of a small waterfall would not be moving fast enough to create a rapid that would sweep you away, or even be very deep. Do you know how many natural caves have exits? Almost none of them. Lewis could have said something instead of hiding behind the tree.
It's over, Clem. The raiders are gone, and we got everyone out alive.
Someone clearly wants to tempt fate.
They'll all be waiting for us back home.
Any idea which way that is?
I haven't been out here in a while, but I think there's a bridge. That way.
Hold on a minute. You and the other kids returned to the school after the horse was spooked. Then you came back to look for Clem and found her along this path, but you didn't take the bridge that you mentioned to be the fastest way back. Why didn't you take that route in the first place if it was faster? And why not use the route that you just used to get here since you know it's clear? Too many characters are just showing up out of the blue with no good explanation. Now Minerva somehow either by chance ended up in the same place Clementine is, or somehow tracked them from the beach through the cave and then the woods.
I found you. Oh, damn. My sweet little brother.
Minerva, her sister Sophie, and Tin are family, so my question is, who sends all three of their kids to reform school? At that point, you had to figure the problem was the parents. The thing everyone has been predicting since Clementine started looking after AJ in Season 2 happens right where everyone predicted it would happen. You will never be able to replicate the same emotional response people had to the ending of Season 1 by redoing it while waggling your eyebrows and expecting fans to applaud how clever you are. Everyone was predicting the game would go in this direction. Feeding into that prediction isn't clever.
AJ, you have to kill me.
Clementine knows very well that cutting off a limb that's bitten gives you a small chance of surviving. Maybe you could have started the game with this scene of Clementine taking AJ back from the ranch. It doesn't really serve any point now. Clementine's cap fell into the river after the explosion, yet here it is somehow in a stream flowing back into said river. That is not how currents work. I don't know whether to be happy or insulted.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Toy airplanes on fire off the shoulder of McCurl Ranch.
You are not allowed to quote Blade Runner until you have actually seen it, which AJ has not.